Don't stand beside me in that cheap dress and expect me to introduce you as my future wife.
Hi, Jasmine.
I postponed my own dream to help you build this life, Kondwani. Have you forgotten everything?
One day, Kondwani, you'll understand who was truly poor.
We'll see.
The man before her had forgotten the night she postponed her dreams and used money meant for her own studio to help build his career. She looked straight into his eyes and replied, "One day, you'll understand who was truly poor. If you were Lukundo, would you stay or walk away? Tell us in the comments." Lukundo Mwimba guided a final line of gold thread through the emerald chitenge dress spread across her work table. Outside the tall windows of her small fashion studio in Kabulonga, Lusaka glowed beneath the last warm light of the day. The studio was modest, but nothing inside it looked careless. Bolts of sapphire, coral, amber, and emerald fabric stood neatly against one wall. Finished dresses hung beneath soft pendant lights, each combining traditional Zambian patterns with elegant modern silhouettes. A brass-framed mirror leaned beside a fitting platform, and a vase filled with fresh greenery gave the room the polished warmth Lukundo wanted her clients to remember. She stepped back from the dress and smiled. "This one might be my favorite," she murmured. Her assistant, 26-year-old Mizozi Firi, looked over from the cutting table. "You say that every time you finish something beautiful, then I have excellent consistency." They laughed. On Lukundo's desk lay something even more important than the dress. A glossy catalogue open to an industrial sewing machine. For months, she had saved for it. The machine would allow her to accept larger orders without sacrificing quality. More orders meant another seamstress. Another seamstress meant growth. Lukundo touched the catalogue. "My dream is finally getting expensive enough to frighten me," she joked. Misozi grinned. "Good dreams usually are." Before Lukundo could answer, the glass door opened. Kondwani Lungu entered wearing charcoal trousers, a crisp white shirt, and the exhausted expression Lukundo had learned to recognize. Her smile disappeared. "Kondwani?" He usually walked into her studio complimenting the fabrics or teasing her about turning every available surface into a workspace. This time, he barely looked around. "I need to talk to you." Misozi immediately sensed the tension. "I'll finish these hems at home," she said, collecting her things. Once they were alone, Lukundo approached Kondwani. "What happened?" He loosened his collar. "The Riverside Heights proposal." Lukundo knew the name instantly. It was the largest development Kondwani's young engineering consultancy had ever pursued. "You said the presentation went well." "It did. Better than well. They shortlisted us." Lukundo's face brightened. "Kondwani, that's wonderful." "It would be." The excitement vanished from her eyes. "What aren't you telling me?" He walked toward the window. "They need revised structural drawings, additional site documentation, professional printing, and a performance guarantee before they'll consider the final bid." "And?" "I'm short." Lukundo remained quiet. "How short?" Kondwani named the amount. Her eyes instinctively moved toward the catalogue. He noticed. "No," he said immediately. "Forget it, Kondwani. That money is for your machine." She folded her arms. "And this contract could change my company." "Your company?" He turned toward her. "Our future." That phrase softened something inside her. For years, they had spoken that way. Our home, our future, our success. Kondwani approached her. "I'm not asking you to give up anything. You didn't ask, and I won't." Lukundo looked around her studio. She imagined the new machine occupying the empty space beside the cutting table. She imagined hiring another seamstress, producing small collections instead of individual dresses, perhaps eventually putting her own name above a larger showroom. Then she looked at Kondwani. She remembered him working from borrowed desks, carrying drawings beneath his arm, being rejected by companies that wanted experience he could never gain unless someone first gave him an opportunity. "What happens if you don't submit everything?" she asked. "They choose another firm, and if you do," Kondwani exhaled, "I have a chance." And Lukundo returned to her desk and closed the catalogue. "No," he stared at her. "No, you don't have a chance." A smile slowly appeared on her face. "We have a chance." "Lukundo, I can wait a little longer for the machine. Kondwani shook his head. You've already waited long enough, so have you. That isn't the same. It is to me. He came closer and took both her hands. I don't want your dream becoming smaller because of mine. The sentence touched her deeply because she believed him. My dream isn't disappearing, Lukundo said. It's waiting. Kondwani looked at the dresses surrounding them. When this contract comes through, your dream comes next. No excuses. She raised an eyebrow. Promise? I promise. Lukundo smiled and rested her forehead briefly against his. Neither of them noticed how dangerous those two words could become when repeated too often. Mine later. She opened her banking app and made the decision. The money she had patiently saved for her first industrial machine would help finance Kondwani's opportunity instead. Afterward, he wrapped his arms around her. One day, he whispered, you'll walk into the home we dreamed about and know you helped build everything. Lukundo smiled against his shoulder, but her eyes drifted toward the closed catalog. She loved Kondwani. She believed in his ability, and she believed there would always be enough future left for her own dream. What Lukundo had not yet learned was that a woman could spend years helping someone build a magnificent life, only to discover that she had never asked the most important question: where exactly was her name on the blueprint? Lukundo Mwimbo stepped through the entrance of an elegant business reception in Kabulonga, Lusaka, with Kondwani Lungu beside her. Crystal pendant lights floated above polished stone floors. Tall windows reflected the city lights, while arrangements of tropical greenery and sculptural flowers softened the modern interior. Around them, architects, property developers, consultants, and investors moved between carefully arranged tables. Lukundo wore an emerald shitenchi gown she had designed herself. The structured neckline framed her shoulders elegantly, while gold-patterned fabric flowed into a sophisticated silhouette. She had paired it with delicate earrings and a small bronze clutch. She felt beautiful. Kondwani looked equally polished in a tailored navy suit. Only months earlier, he had worried about whether his company could survive another unsuccessful bid. Now Riverside Heights had changed everything. The contract had brought revenue, credibility, and introductions to people who had previously ignored his emails. Lukundo squeezed his hand. Look at you. Kondwani smiled. Look at us. She liked that answer. A woman in a cream suit approached them. Kondwani Lungu? Yes, I attended your presentation. Your structural proposal was impressive. Thank you. Kondwani introduced himself more formally, and the conversation quickly shifted toward future developments. The woman eventually turned toward Lukundo. And you are? Before Kondwani answered, Lukundo smiled. Lukundo Mwimba. I'm a fashion designer. The woman's attention immediately moved to her dress. You designed this? I did. It's beautiful. Thank you. Do you have a showroom? A studio for now. A showroom is part of the plan. The woman reached into her handbag and handed Lukundo a card. My sister organizes corporate events. You should speak with her. She's always looking for designers who can create something distinctive. Lukundo accepted it with genuine excitement. I'd love that. After the woman walked away, Lukundo turned to Kondwani. Did you hear that? I heard. That could become something. Kondwani glanced toward the group of executives nearby. Just don't spend the whole evening talking about sewing. Lukundo's smile weakened. I don't sew for entertainment, Kondwani. It's my business. I know. Then why say it like that? He lowered his voice. Because these people are discussing major investments. I'm trying to position myself properly, and my work prevents that. That isn't what I said. Before Lukundo could respond, a striking woman approached. She wore a sculpted cobalt dress with understated jewelry and carried herself with effortless confidence. Kondwani? His entire posture changed. Mutinta, good to see you. Congratulations on Riverside Heights. Thank you. Kondwani turned slightly. This is Lukundo. Mutinta Kayombo smiled warmly. Your dress is extraordinary, Lukundo relaxed. Thank you, I made it. You're a designer? Yes. Then Kondwani gave you a terrible introduction. Lukundo laughed. Kondwani did not. Mutinta continued. I work in property development. We've been discussing locally designed interiors and uniforms for some hospitality projects. There's an enormous amount of talent here that companies overlook. That's exactly the market I'd eventually like to explore, Lukundo said. The two women spoke briefly about local craftsmanship and modern African design. When Mutinta was called away, she touched Lukundo lightly on the arm. It was lovely meeting you. You too. After she left, Lukundo noticed Kondwani watching her. Wati? You don't have to tell everyone you made your own dress. Lukundo stared at him. Why wouldn't I? It can sound. He hesitated. Sound what? The word landed differently than he intended. Kundo looked down at the emerald fabric. The same dress that strangers had admired suddenly felt heavier. I thought you were proud of what I do. I am. You don't sound proud. Kondwani sighed. Lukundo, please. I'm trying to build relationships tonight. So am I. That's different. How? He glanced around before answering. These people operate at another level. Lukundo's expression changed. And what level do I operate at? That isn't what I mean. Then explain it. Kondwani lowered his voice further. Don't talk about your sewing shop tonight. Just let me handle these people. For several seconds, Lukundo said nothing. She remembered preparing his proposals beside an unfinished dresses. She remembered delaying equipment she needed because his company needed money first. She remembered reading presentations she barely understood until she could identify errors before he did. And now that the doors had finally opened, Kondwani was asking her to become quiet inside the room she had helped him reach. Lukundo straightened her shoulders. My studio isn't something you need to hide. I never said it was. You didn't have to. Kondwani rubbed his forehead. You're making this bigger than it is. No, Lukundo replied calmly. I think I'm finally noticing how big it has already become. A waiter passed them carrying sparkling drinks. Kondwani reached for one, but Lukundo declined. Across the room, someone called his name. He looked toward the group and then back at her. We'll talk at home. Lukundo nodded. Go. He hesitated. You're okay? She gave him a composed smile. I know how to stand in a room by myself. Kondwani walked away. Lukundo remained beside the tall windows, surrounded by successful people dressed in expensive fabrics and polished confidence. She looked at her reflection in the glass. Emerald chitenge, gold stitching, her own hands, her own design. For the first time, she wondered why she had spent so long believing Kondwani's success would automatically become theirs. Because tonight, standing inside the world she had helped him enter, Lukundo discovered something uncomfortable. Kondwani was no longer introducing her as part of his journey. He was beginning to treat her as evidence of a life he wanted everyone to believe he had already outgrown. Lukundo Mwimbab stood inside the glass-walled living room of Kondwani Lungu's newly rented villa in Kabulonga, staring at the man whose future she had once treated like her own. The house was everything Kondwani used to describe when they dreamed together. Cream marble stretched beneath elegant furniture, sculptural lights hung above a dining table large enough for business dinners. Beyond the glass doors, a landscaped garden surrounded a narrow swimming pool glowing beneath soft lights. Lukundo should have felt proud. Instead, she felt strangely invisible. She wore a fitted coral chitenge dress with delicate bronze embroidery, one of her newest designs. Kondwani wore a charcoal shirt and tailored trousers. You wanted to talk? Lukundo said. Yes. Then talk. Kondwani remained standing near the window. Ever since the business reception, something between them had changed. Lukundo had stopped pretending not to notice the unanswered messages, the invitations she no longer received, and the way Kondwani increasingly spoke about his future using one word. I, not we. She placed her handbag on the marble table. Is this about what happened at the reception? Partly. Then I'm listening. Kondwani exhaled. Lukundo, things are moving quickly for me. She almost smiled. I know. I helped them move. His expression tightened. I'm not denying that. Good. My company is entering a different market now. Bigger developers, international investors, people who expect a certain level of presentation. Lukundo studied him. What does your presentation have to do with us? Silence. That silence answered before Kondwani did. Lukundo's face slowly changed. Oh, please don't do that. Do what? Decide what I'm saying before I finish. Then finish. Kondwani walked toward the sofa but did not sit. I've been thinking about our future. Our future? He noticed the emphasis. Lukundo, no, continue. I'm interested in hearing when it became ours again. He looked away. I think we want different lives. She stared at him. I wanted a fashion house. You wanted an engineering company. We knew that when we met. That's not what I mean. What do you mean? Kondwani struggled for words. Lukundo waited. Finally, he said, I need someone beside me who fits naturally into the world I'm entering. Her expression went still. And I don't? You're making it sound cruel. I'm repeating what you said. I didn't say you weren't good enough. Then say what you actually mean. Kondwani's frustration surfaced. You still work from a small studio, Lukundo. You still worry about individual dress orders and fabric costs. I'm sitting across tables from people discussing developments worth millions. She gave a quiet, disbelieving laugh. And suddenly my work embarrasses you. That isn't fair. Fair? She stepped closer. Do you remember the industrial machine I was supposed to buy? Kondwani said nothing. I postponed it because your company needed money. I remember. Do you remember who proofread your Riverside proposal? You did. Who stayed beside you while you prepared presentations? You did. Who listened when every rejection made you question whether you are good enough? Lukundo, I know what you did. Then why are you talking as though you climbed here alone? His jaw tightened. I never asked you to sacrifice everything. The sentence silenced her, not because it was entirely false, because it was technically true. He had not forced her. She had chosen him repeatedly. Lukundo nodded slowly. You're right. Kondwani seemed surprised. You didn't force me. Exactly. But you accepted every sacrifice. His expression changed. You called it our future when you needed me to believe in it. That's not what happened. And now that the future has arrived, suddenly I don't fit inside it. Kondwani rubbed his hands together. I don't want to spend the rest of my life apologizing because my ambitions changed. I never asked you to apologize for ambition. Then what are you asking? For honesty. She looked directly into his eyes. Are you ashamed of me? Kondwani hesitated. That hesitation had more than an immediate answer. I think, he finally said, I need a wife who can walk into the rooms I'm entering without looking like she was invited through the service door. The villa became painfully quiet. Lukundo looked down at the coral dress she had designed with her own hands. Then she looked around at the beautiful house. For years, she had imagined herself walking through a home like this, beside him. Now, she understood that Kondwani had reached the life they once described together and decided she spoiled the picture. So I'm too poor to be your wife. I didn't use those words. You didn't need to. Kondwani moved toward her. I don't want this to become ugly. Lukundo picked up her handbag. It won't, Lukundo. She raised one hand. No, her voice remained controlled. I'm not going to audition for a position I helped create. His face softened. I never wanted to hurt you. That doesn't make this less painful. She walked toward the door, then stopped. One question. Kondwani looked at her. If these rooms matter so much to you, who helped you reach them? He opened his mouth. Nothing came. Lukundo nodded. That's what I thought. She turned away. Lukundo, wait. She looked back once. I hope everything you wanted is waiting for you here, Kondwani. There were tears in her eyes, but her voice did not break. But I will never again make myself smaller so a man can feel larger standing beside me. Then she walked out. Kondwani remained surrounded by marble, glass, expensive furniture, and everything he had once called success. Lukundo left with none of it. Yet somewhere beneath the heartbreak, she carried away something far more important. For the first time in years, her future belonged entirely to her. Lukundo Mwemba stood alone inside her fashion studio in Kabulonga, staring at the industrial sewing machine catalog she had once closed for Kondwani Lungu. For several days, she had avoided it. The studio still looked beautiful. Rolls of vibrant chitange fabric filled the shelves. A sapphire gown waited on a mannequin near the window, while a mustard and gold jacket hung beside a collection of sketches. Nothing had disappeared after Kondwani left her. Yet Lukundo felt as though she had returned to a life she had neglected. The door opened, Bupi Mupet entered, carrying a woven handbag and wearing a sophisticated plum chitenge dress beneath a cream jacket. She looked around. Why is it so quiet? Misozi is collecting fabric. That explains Misozi. It doesn't explain you. Lukundo sighed. Auntie, please. Bu placed her handbag down. I brought you food. I'm not hungry. Heartbreak has never impressed me enough to let it cancel lunch. Despite herself, Lukundo smiled. Bupe noticed the catalog. She picked it up. This machine again? Lukundo nodded. You were supposed to buy this, but you didn't. Kondwani needed the money. Bupe closed the catalog. And now, Lukundo looked away. Now Kondwani doesn't need me. Bupe studied Hanisa carefully. Those are two different statements. They feel like the same one. No. Bupe pulled out a chair. Sit. Lukundo obeyed reluctantly. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Then Bupe asked, what did you want before Kondwani's company became the center of every conversation? Lukundo frowned. You know what I wanted? I want you to say it. A proper fashion house. And a larger production space. And Lukundo looked toward her designs. I wanted to create modern Zambian pieces for professional women. Dresses, jackets, formal collections. Maybe hospitality uniforms eventually. Bupe nodded. And what happened? Life. No, be specific. Lukundo became defensive. I supported someone I love. That isn't a crime. I know, do you? Lukundo looked at her. Bupe leaned forward. You keep speaking as though loving Kondwani was your mistake. It wasn't. Then what was? Every time two dreams needed something, you automatically decided his dream should eat first. The words struck Lukundo. Bupe continued more gently. You keep telling me about the future you and Kondwani were building. Lukundo, show me the part of that future that had your name on it. Lukundo opened her mouth. Nothing came. Her eyes filled. I thought mine would come later. There is always a later until there isn't. Lukundo lowered her gaze. I feel foolish. Why? Because he was growing while I was waiting. Bupe shook her head. You were growing too. You simply weren't measuring it. She gestured around the studio. You learned customers, fabrics, pricing, fittings, suppliers. You built relationships. You developed taste. Kondwani leaving does not erase what your hands learned while you were loving him. Lukundo slowly looked around. She had been so focused on what she lacked that she had stopped noticing what she possessed. The door opened again. Misozi entered carrying 2 fabric bags. She stopped when she noticed Bupe. Should I disappear? No, Bupe replied. You should tell my niece something. Misozi cautiously placed the bags down. What? How many orders did you refuse recently? Lukundo immediately knew where this was going. Misozi, 7. Bupe raised an eyebrow. 7? Because we couldn't produce them quickly enough. Lukundo crossed her arms. We cannot compromise quality. I agree, Misozi said, which is why we need better equipment. Bupe tapped the catalog. Lukundo stared at both women. You planned this? I brought food, Bupe replied innocently. The intervention happened naturally. Lukundo laughed for the first time since leaving Kondwani's villa. The sound surprised her. Then she became serious. I don't have enough anymore. For the machine? Misozi asked. Lukundo nodded. I used part of my savings. Rebuilding it will take time. Then buy something within your current capacity, Bupe said. The model I wanted is better. Better for the business you imagined. What does the business you have today need? That question changed the conversation. Lukundo opened her laptop. The 3 women compared equipment, production capacity, operating costs, and what Lukundo could realistically afford without borrowing recklessly. She eventually found a smaller industrial machine. Not glamorous, not her dream model, but enough to increase production. Lukundo stared at the purchase page. Her finger hovered over the trackpad. Misozi smiled. Do it. Lukundo clicked. The confirmation appeared. For a moment, she simply stared. Then she laughed softly. I bought it. Bupe smiled. No, your business bought it. That distinction mattered. Lukundo stood and walked toward the wall where several sketches were pinned. One was an old logo concept she had abandoned. She removed it. What are you doing? Misozi asked. Starting properly. She took a clean sheet of paper and wrote 2 words across it, Luca Atelier. Misozi read them aloud. I like it, so do I. Bupe folded her arms proudly. What comes next? Lukundo looked around her small studio. She could still remember Kondwani describing the rooms she supposedly did not belong in. For the first time, she no longer wanted admission to them. She wanted to build rooms of her own. Next, Lukundo said, picking up her pencil, we stop treating this like the dream I work on after everyone else gets what they need. She began sketching. Her heart was still healing. Her bank account was not magically full. No wealthy stranger had arrived with an easy solution. But something fundamental had changed. For years, Lukundo had written herself into the margins of someone else's blueprint. Now, on a simple sheet of paper, inside a modest studio filled with brilliant African fabric, she finally began designing a future with her own name at the top. Lukundo Mwimba adjusted a cobalt chitenje jacket on a mannequin inside Dusa Atelier when the glass door opened and a tall man in a sand-colored suit stepped inside. The studio no longer felt like the wounded place she had returned to after Kondwani left her. The new industrial sewing machine stood beside the cutting table. Fabric samples were organized in labeled drawers. 3 finished dresses hung beneath warm pendant lights, and a small brass plaque bearing the words Luka Etelia had been mounted near the entrance. Lukundo looked up. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Lukundo Mimba? Yes. The man smiled and extended his hand. Chisomo Zulu. She recognized the name. Chisomo worked in hospitality development and retail strategy. One of Lukundo's clients had mentioned him while collecting a custom dress. I was told you might visit. I hope that doesn't mean someone exaggerated my importance. Lukundo smiled. That depends on why you're here. His eyes moved toward the cobalt jacket. That? My jacket? Your work. Chisomo stepped closer to the mannequin without touching the garment. A client wore one of your designs to a property meeting. Hafu asked where she bought it. That sounds promising. It caught fast tension. Lukundo gestured toward the seating area. Please? Once they sat, Chisomo placed a slim folder on the table. I'm advising a boutique hospitality group developing a new property in Lusaka. They want their guest-facing staff uniforms to feel contemporary, elegant, and distinctly Zambian without becoming costume-like. Lukundo immediately became attentive. How many staff? Chisomo told her. Her excitement faded slightly. It was far larger than any order Luka Atelier had handled. He noticed. Problem? No, that answer came too quickly. Lukundo laughed softly. It's larger than my usual orders. Much larger. Yes. Good. She raised an eyebrow. Good. I prefer honesty to confidence performed for my benefit. Lukundo leaned back. What exactly are you looking for? A supplier capable of developing samples, documenting costs, maintaining consistent sizing, controlling quality, and delivering without excuses. I can design the collection. I'm sure you can. His response irritated her slightly. You haven't seen my portfolio. I saw enough before coming here. Then what concerns you? Chisomo looked around the studio. Capacity. Lukundo's expression tightened. I recently upgraded my equipment. 1 machine? She hesitated. Yes. How many people work here? 2 full-time, including me, with independent seamstresses available when necessary. Documented subcontracting arrangements? No production schedule? For this project? For an order of this scale? Not yet. Quality control process. I inspect every garment myself. Chisomo nodded. That works when you make 12 dresses. It becomes a problem when you make dozens of coordinated pieces in multiple sizes. Lukundo folded her hands. So you've already decided I'm too small? No, the answer was immediate. I've decided your designs are stronger than your systems. That silenced her. Chisomo opened the folder. I'm inviting you to present a sample proposal. Lukundo looked down at the specifications. Her excitement returned. When do you need it? The deadline is in the documents. She scanned the pages. Fabric requirements, durability expectations, sizing, replacement garments, pricing, delivery stages. This was not simply designing something beautiful. It was business. I can do this, she said. Chisomo stood. Show me. That sentence stayed with her. Lukundo worked intensely on the proposal. She developed sophisticated uniforms combining deep indigo fabric with restrained shitenji accents. She calculated fabric consumption, labor, packaging, and transportation. When Chisomo returned to review her presentation, she laid everything across the cutting table with confidence. He examined the samples carefully. The designs are excellent, Lukundo smiled. Thank you, but I can't recommend you. Her smile disappeared. What? Your costing is incomplete. I included materials and labor, not reject pieces, not alteration rates, not packaging losses. Your production schedule assumes nothing goes wrong. I can adjust that. You also haven't shown how you'll maintain consistency if you outsource part of production. Lukundo felt embarrassment rising. I thought you came because you believed in my work. I do. Then why does this feel like you're searching for reasons to reject me? Chisomo closed the folder. Because admiration is not a contract. The words were firm but not unkind. Lukundo looked away. He continued. If I recommend you because I like your designs and you fail, I haven't helped you. I've damaged your reputation before your business is ready. She slowly looked back at him. So that's it? For this proposal, yes. Disappointment settled heavily inside her. She had imagined this opportunity becoming proof that she was finally moving forward. Instead, she had failed. Chisomo moved toward the door. Then he stopped. You know what surprised me? What? You didn't fail because your studio is small. Lukundo waited. You failed because you are still running a growing company like a talented woman filling individual orders. The statement stung because she knew it was true. What would you do? Chisomo shook his head. I'm not going to build your company for you. Her expression sharpened. Then why tell me all this? Because you asked what was missing. He opened the door. Fix the system, Lukundo. The talent is already here. After he left, Lukundo remained beside the table. For a moment, she wanted to sweep the rejected proposal into a drawer. Instead, she opened it. She picked up a pen. Beside production capacity, she wrote a question. Beside quality control, another. Beside costing, another. Misozi entered from the workroom and saw her expression. We didn't get it? No, I'm sorry. Lukundo shook her head. Don't be. Misozi looked confused. Lukundo turned the proposal toward her. We've been thinking like dressmakers, aren't we? Lukundo looked around Luca Atelier. Not anymore. There was no miraculous investor waiting outside. No man had rescued her. No sudden fortune had transformed the studio. Instead, Lukundo had received something less glamorous and far more valuable, an honest assessment of where her dream was weak. She uncapped her pen again. If we want bigger doors to open, she told Misozi, we need to become strong enough to stay inside once they do. And this time, Lukundo intended to build that strength herself. Lukundo Mwimba stood in the center of Luca Atelier holding a clipboard while Misozi Fury inspected 6 identical indigo jackets lined neatly across a long work table. The studio had changed, not dramatically. There were no marble floors, enormous chandeliers, or sudden signs of wealth. Instead, the transformation could be seen in smaller things that mattered more. Fabric rolls carried inventory labels. Measurements were recorded digitally instead of scattered across notebooks. Each garment moved through cutting, assembly, fitting, inspection, and packaging before it could leave the studio. A whiteboard displayed active orders and assigned responsibilities. Lukundo had even created a small shelf marked Reject, where garments with imperfect stitching or inconsistent sizing waited to be corrected. Misozi lifted one jacket. Should a seam? Lukundo examined it. Barely noticeable. Reject it. Misozi smiled. You're becoming frightening. I'm becoming expensive. That sounds better. They laughed. The door opened. Shisomo Zulu entered carrying the same calm confidence Lukundo remembered from their previous meeting. His gaze traveled across the studio. You moved things. I changed things. There's a difference? A large one. Lukundo handed him a folder, updated production workflow, supply agreements, quality control checklist, revised costing model, and contingency capacity. Chisomo looked at her. You've been busy. I dislike failing twice for the same reason. He opened the folder. Lukundo refused to study his face for approval. That was another habit she was trying to break. Chisomo examined the documents, then walked toward the jackets. These samples? A corporate order. He checked the stitching. Consistent. They have to be. And if one isn't? Lukundo pointed toward the rejected shelf. Chisomo laughed. That shelf looks personal. It is. He continued reviewing her system. Finally, he closed the folder. The hospitality group reopened discussions with two suppliers after their preferred company increased its price. Lukundo remained composed. And I recommended Luca Atelier for a controlled trial order. Her composure disappeared. You did? I recommended that they consider you. That sounds suspiciously less exciting. It should. You still have to earn it. Lukundo smiled. I wouldn't want it any other way. That surprised Chisomo. The last time I was here, you wanted me to believe in you. I wanted you to validate me. And now? Now I have numbers. She opens another document. My rejection rate has fallen. Production capacity has increased without reducing finishing quality. I negotiated better fabric pricing, and I now know exactly how much every garment cost me before I pretend I've made a profit. Ciso nodded approvingly. That last lesson bankrupts more businesses than bad design. Lukundo leaned against the table. I used to think growing meant getting more customers. What do you think now? Growth means being able to serve more customers without destroying what made them come to you. Chisomo smiled. Now you sound dangerous. Good. Misozi quietly raised a hand from across the room. I would like the records to show that I called her frightening first. Their laughter filled the studio. After Chisomo left, Lukundo returned to her desk and opened her laptop. A photograph appeared on her screen from a Lusaka property development event. Kondwani stood near the center. His navy suit was immaculate. Beside him stood Mutinta Kayombo in an elegant burnt orange dress, her posture confident and sophisticated. The caption described them as two emerging professionals helping shape modern development in the city. Lukundo stared longer than she wanted to. Misozi noticed. You okay? Yes. That answer sounded professionally prepared. Lukundo closed the image. I knew this would happen. Knew what? That he would find someone he thought belonged in those rooms. Misozi approached slowly. Do you hate her? Lukundo considered the question. No, really? She didn't promise me anything. Misozi nodded. And him? Lukundo looked toward the garments waiting for inspection. I don't know what I feel anymore. That's allowed. Lukundo opened the photograph again briefly. Mutinta looked beautiful, successful, elegant, everything Kondwani apparently believed Lukundo had failed to represent. For one painful moment, an old instinct returned. Compare, measure, ask what another woman possessed that she did not. Then Lukundo noticed something. She was sitting inside a business that had begun growing because she had finally stopped asking that question. She closed the photograph. Come, she told Misozi. Where? We have work. Misozi smiled. That sounded dramatic. I practiced it. They returned to the production table. Later, Lukundo received confirmation that Luca Atelier had been approved for the trial hospitality order. She read the message twice. There was no screaming, no miraculous transformation. She simply placed both hands against the table and allowed herself a quiet smile. The contract would not make her rich, but if she delivered successfully, it could open an entirely new market. More importantly, she had earned it after being told exactly where her business was weak. Lukundo looked around at the women working beside her. This is only a trial, she said. Misozi grinned. Then we make them regret not giving us the full order. No, Lukundo smiled. We make them confident enough to give us the next one. That was the difference between the woman she had been and the woman she was becoming. She no longer needed success to arrive loudly enough for Kondwani to hear it. She no longer needed another woman to lose so she could feel valuable. And she no longer measured her progress by whether she could enter the rooms Kondwani once considered beyond her. Lukundo was learning something far more powerful. A woman did not need to prove she belonged in someone else's world when she was finally busy building one of her own. Lukundo Mwimba entered an elegant women in business reception in Kabulonga, wearing a structured sapphire chitenge gown from Lukat Atelier's newest collection. Warm pendant lights illuminated the contemporary venue. Glass walls overlooked manicured gardens, while entrepreneurs, executives, designers, and investors gathered around polished tables decorated with understated floral arrangements. Months earlier, entering a room like this beside Kondwani had made Lukundo nervous. Now she entered alone, and somehow she felt taller. Lukundo, she turned. One of her hospitality clients approached in an elegant ivory suit. That dress is going to distract everyone from networking. Lukundo laughed. Then I'll consider that successful marketing. You should. Our management team loved the uniform trial. I'm glad, especially the jackets. We've had fewer alteration requests than expected. That compliment pleased Lukundo more than praise for her own dress. It meant the systems were working. After exchanging a few words, Lukundo continued into the room. Then she saw her. Mutinta Kayombo. Mutinta stood near a tall arrangement of greenery, wearing a sophisticated crimson dress with gold accessories. She was speaking with two executives when her eyes met Lukundo's. Recognition came immediately. Lukundo felt an uncomfortable tightening in her chest. She could have turned away. Instead, she remained where she was. Mutinta excused herself and approached. Lukundo, Mutinta. I thought that was you. They exchanged polite smiles. For a moment, neither woman knew what should come next. Then Mutinta looked at Lukundo's dress. Please tell me that's yours. Luke, I knew it. Lukundo smiled slightly. You remembered? I remember good design. Mutinta glanced toward a display featuring businesses participating in the reception. I saw Luca Attilia listed among the suppliers. We've started working in hospitality. That's impressive. Thank you. There was no mockery in Mutinta's voice, no competition. That somehow made the situation easier and more difficult at the same time. Mutinta hesitated. I hope this isn't uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be. You know about Kondwani and me. Lukundo appreciated the directness. I do. Mutinta nodded. I didn't know you were together when we first met. I assumed you didn't. You did? Kondwani had already started introducing me as though I was someone he happened to know. Mutinta's expression changed. I'm sorry, you don't owe me an apology. Before Mutinta could answer, a woman passing nearby stopped. Lukundo Mimba, yes? I attended a supplier presentation recently. Your production story was fascinating. Is it true you started Luca Atelier after helping finance another business? Lukundo paused. Not exactly. The woman looked embarrassed. I may have misunderstood. I had my studio long before that. I simply spent several years putting more energy into someone else's expansion than my own. That sounds familiar to more women than anyone admits. Lukundo smiled. Probably. The woman excused herself. When Lukundo turned back, Mutinta was staring at her. What did she mean? Lukundo immediately understood. This isn't a conversation we need to have. Was she talking about Kondwani? Mutinta, please. Lukundo considered walking away. Then she decided honesty did not require cruelty. When Kondwani was building his consultancy, I helped. How? Sometimes money, sometimes administrative work, proposals, presentations, whatever needed doing. Mutinta frowned. He told me he built the company entirely from his own savings. He did invest his own money, but not entirely. No, Mutinta looked toward the windows. Did you invest in Riverside Heights? Lukundo chose her words carefully. I postponed buying equipment for my studio so he could complete the requirements for that bid. Mutinta became silent. Lukundo immediately added, I'm not telling you this to interfere with your relationship. I know, and Kondwani worked hard. I would never pretend otherwise. That isn't the issue. Mutinta looked back at her. The issue is that he talks about those years as though nobody stood beside him. Lukundo felt something inside her settle. For months, she had wondered whether she needed Kondwani to acknowledge what she had done. Now, she realized he did not. The truth remained true even when someone omitted it. Mutinta studied her. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. Why did you separate? Lukundo hesitated. He decided I didn't fit the life he was entering. Mutinta's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? You should ask him. That bad. Lukundo smiled sadly. That's revealing. Mutinta exhaled. He often talks about compatibility, image, being with someone who understands the level he operates at. Lukundo said nothing. Suddenly, Mutinta gave a small humorless laugh. I thought those were compliments. They may have been, or comparisons. Lukundo looked directly at her. Mutinta, Whatever Kondwani and I were is finished. I won't turn you into my enemy because he chose you afterward. Mutinta's expression softened. Thank you. I mean it. I believe you. They stood together for a moment, two women who could easily have been written into each other's lives as rivals. Instead, something more mature passed between them. Understanding, Mutinta glanced around the elegant room. For what it's worth, you look perfectly comfortable here. Lukundo smiled. That used to matter to me. And now? Now I'm more interested in whether the business attached to my name deserves to be here. Mutinta laughed softly. I like that answer. Across the room, someone called Lukundo toward a group discussing local manufacturing partnerships. She excused herself. Before she walked away, Mutinta spoke again. Lukundo, she turned. I think there are things about Kondwani's success I need to understand. Lukundo shook her head gently. Understand them for yourself, not for me. Then she walked toward the waiting executives. Mutinta remained behind, thoughtful. Lukundo did not know what Mutinta would eventually decide about Kondwani. For once, she did not need to know. There was a deeper victory in leaving that conversation without jealousy. Another woman's beauty had not diminished hers. Another woman's wealth had not made her poor. And another woman did not need to lose for Lukundo to finally win. As she joined the business conversation, Lukundo realized that healing had changed the questions she carried into every room. She no longer wondered whether she was impressive enough to stand beside a successful man. She wondered what she could build beside other successful women. Kondwani Lungu stepped into the grand presentation hall of a newly completed luxury hospitality property in Lusaka and stopped when he saw the name glowing discreetly on a brass display near the entrance. Luka Atelier, founder and creative director, Lukundo Muimba. For several seconds, he simply stared. Around him, the venue reflected the sophisticated direction of modern Lusaka. Floor-to-ceiling glass overlooked landscaped gardens. Sculptural pendant lights hung above polished stone floors, while elegant furniture incorporated warm wood, woven textures, and contemporary African artwork. Kondwani had entered dozens of rooms like this. He had once believed they proved how far he had risen. Tonight, one name made the entire room feel different. Beautiful work, isn't it? Kondwani turned. A property executive stood beside him, admiring a display of staff uniforms. Deep indigo jackets were accented with carefully restrained chitenge patterns. The designs were distinctly Zambian without sacrificing the refined appearance expected of a luxury property. Kondwani, yes, you disappeared for a moment. He forced a smile. I know the designer. The executive brightened. Then you know someone impressive. Their trial order performed exceptionally well. We expanded the contract. Kondwani looked again at the display. Expanded? Luke Atelier is supplying several departments now. Before Kondwani could respond, movement near the presentation stage caught his attention. Lukundo entered. She wore a striking emerald and gold chitenge gown with a structured neckline and flowing skirt. The design was elegant rather than extravagant. Her hair was styled neatly away from her face, and understated gold earrings completed the look. But it was not the dress that unsettled Kondwani. It was the way she walked. She was not looking around to determine whether she belonged. She already knew. Chisomo Zulu approached her carrying a folder. The management team wants to discuss the next phase. Before or after the presentation? After, good. Misozi still needs confirmation on the final quantities. You brought your operations manager. Lukundo smiled. I stopped trying to be 5 employees at once. Progress. Expensive progress. Chisomo laughed. Kondwani watched from across the room. He remembered another reception, another elegant dress, another version of Lukundo standing beside him while he quietly worried that people would notice she ran a small sewing studio. Now people were approaching her, not because of Kondwani, not because she was anyone's partner, because her name was attached to work they respected. Eventually, Lukundo turned, their eyes met. Her smile disappeared for only a moment. Then her expression settled into calm recognition. Kondwani approached. Lukundo, Kondwani. He stopped. She raised an eyebrow. Like I came through the service door, his face tightened. I deserve that. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I know. That answer surprised him. He looked toward the Luca Atelier display. I heard you got the expanded contract. We did. We, my team. Kondwani said slowly. You built all this. We're building it. There was no arrogance in her voice that somehow made his regret sharper. I always knew you were talented. Lukundo studied him. No, Kondwani. You knew I could make beautiful clothes. He said nothing. That isn't the same as believing I could build a company. You're right. The admission came quietly. Lukundo had expected excuses. Instead, Kondwani looked genuinely uncomfortable. I said things to you that I've thought about many times. I hope you learned something from them. I did. He looked around the hall. I thought success would change everything. Did it? Yes. Lukundo waited. Just not in the way I expected. Before she could respond, Mutinta Kayombo approached. She wore a sophisticated burgundy gown and carried a slim leather portfolio. The tension between her and Kondwani was immediately noticeable. Lukundo, Mutinta said warmly. Mutinta, congratulations. The uniforms look excellent. Thank you. Mutinta turned toward Kondwani. I didn't realize you were already here. I just arrived. The politeness between them felt careful. Lukundo did not ask questions. Whatever was happening in their relationship belonged to them. Mutinta excused herself to greet another developer. Kondwani watched her leave. Lukundo noticed but remained silent. Finally, he said, things between us have been difficult. Kondwani, you don't need to explain your relationship to me. I know. Then don't. He nodded. A small silence followed. Kondwani looked again at the brass display. I remember when you wanted that industrial machine. Lukundo smiled faintly. So do I. You gave up the money because of me. I postponed something because I believed in what we were building. And I made you feel small afterward. Yes. He looked directly at her. I'm sorry. For a moment, the noise of the reception seemed to fade. Once, Lukundo had imagined hearing those words. She thought they would feel like victory. Instead, they felt like closure. I accept your apology. Hope briefly appeared in his eyes, but Lukundo continued. Acceptance doesn't mean returning. The hope disappeared. I understand. Chisomo approached from across the hall. Lukundo, they're ready for you. I'm coming. She turned back towards Kondwani. I hope your company continues to do well. You mean that? Yes. After everything? Lukundo smiled gently. Your failure wouldn't make my success more valuable. Then she walked away. Kondwani remained beside the display as Lukundo joined her team. A senior executive handed her the presentation microphone, and several people turned their attention toward her. Kondwani watched silently. Years earlier, Lukundo had helped prepare presentations bearing his company's name. Tonight, she stood before investors and executives presenting work bearing hers. He had once believed she was too poor to become the wife who could accompany him into important rooms. But their paths had crossed again, and Kondwani finally understood what he had failed to see. Lukundo had never needed him to give her a place in those rooms. She had only needed to stop postponing the woman capable of earning one herself. Lukundo Mwimba stood inside the expanded Luka Ati showroom in Kabulonga, running her fingers across the sleeve of a newly finished copper and indigo chitenje jacket. The space was larger than her original studio, but still unmistakably hers. Warm wooden shelves displayed carefully folded fabrics. Brass rails held tailored dresses and jackets beneath elegant pendant lights. A glass partition separated the showroom from the production area, where labeled workstations reflected the systems Lukundo had spent months developing. Near the entrance, gold lettering rested against the glass. Luka Atelier. Her name was finally attached to something she had not postponed for anyone. Mizozi approached carrying a tablet. The hospitality order passed final inspection. All pieces? All. Lukundo smiled. And the new corporate inquiry? They want a meeting. Good. Don't promise capacity until we review production. Misozi placed a hand dramatically over her heart. You've changed. I've learned. That sounds less dramatic. It's more profitable. They laughed. The door opened. Misozi looked toward the entrance, then back at Lukundo. Her expression changed. Kondwani? Lukundo turned. Kondwani Lungu stood just inside the showroom, wearing a tailored charcoal suit. He looked composed, but there was something different in his posture. Less performance, more hesitation. I can tell him you're busy, Misozi offered. Lukundo considered it. No, it's fine. Misozi nodded and disappeared behind the glass partition. Kondwani approached slowly. This place is beautiful. Thank you. I remember when it was just the studio. So do I. His eyes moved toward the production area. How many people work here now? Enough to keep me worrying about payroll. He laughed quietly. That sounds like you. What does? Turning success into another responsibility. Lukundo smiled faintly. Success usually is. Kondwani looked toward the gold lettering on the entrance. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he said, Mutinta and I ended things. Lukundo remained still. I'm sorry. You don't sound surprised. I'm trying not to have an opinion about something that isn't my relationship. Kondwani nodded. She asked questions I didn't like answering. About us? About me. That answer interested Lukundo more. Kondwani continued. She realized I had a habit of describing every achievement as though I had built it alone. Lukundo said nothing. She told me something I didn't want to hear. What? That I didn't actually want an accomplished woman. I wanted a woman whose accomplishments made me look accomplished. Lukundo absorbed the statement. Was she right? Yes, the honesty surprised her. Kondwani walked toward one of the displays. I spent so much time trying to look successful that I started measuring people by what they added to the picture. He turned. I did that to you. Yes. I'm ashamed of it. Lukundo's expression softened, but she did not rescue him from the discomfort. Some truths needed to remain uncomfortable long enough to change someone. I owe you an apology bigger than the one I gave you at the presentation, he said. You already apologized. I apologized for what I said. I never apologized for what I became. Lukundo folded her arms gently. Then say what you came to say. Kondwani met her eyes. I'm sorry I benefited from your sacrifices and later used the consequences of those sacrifices to judge you. Lukundo became silent. That was the apology she had once thought she needed. Kondwani continued. You delayed your equipment because I needed money. You spent energy on my company that should have gone into yours. Then when my world became larger, I looked at your smaller studio as evidence that you lacked ambition. His voice lowered. I never stopped to admit that part of the reason your dream was moving slowly was because you had been helping mine move faster. Lukundo felt emotion rise in her chest. Not longing, recognition. Thank you for finally understanding that. I wish I had understood before losing you. Lukundo looked toward the window. Kondwani, I need you to understand something too. I'm listening. I made those choices. He frowned. You don't have to defend me. I'm not. She faced him. You were wrong to disrespect what I gave. But I was also wrong to repeatedly put my future last and assume love would eventually reward me for it. Kondwani remained silent. That lesson belongs to me. He nodded slowly. Is there any possibility for us? The question was quiet. Lukundo had once imagined this moment differently. She had imagined wanting him to beg. She had imagined proving what he lost. But healing had removed the satisfaction from revenge. I don't hate you, Kondwani. I know. I genuinely want you to become a better man. Hope entered his expression. But I don't need to be your wife to witness it. His eyes lowered. Lukundo stepped closer. I spent years helping you become the man you wanted to be. I should have spent some of those years becoming the woman I wanted you to be. Kondwani looked around the showroom. And now you have. Lukundo smiled. I'm still becoming her. He nodded. That might be the part I never understood. What? You never needed to become richer than me. No. Or more important. No. You just needed your own life. Lukundo's smile deepened. Exactly. Kondwani offered his hand. She looked at it before taking it. No romance, no promise, just closure. After he left, Misozi emerged from the production area. Well, Lukundo picked up the tablet. We have a corporate inquiry to prepare for, that's all. Lukundo glanced toward the glass door. The gold lettering caught the light. Luka Atelier. Yes, she said peacefully, that's all. Once, Lukundo had dreamed of seeing her name attached to Kondwani's beautiful future. Now she finally understood why life had forced her to rewrite that dream. The most important door she would ever walk through was not the door to a wealthy man's villa, an exclusive reception, or an impressive business circle. It was the door to a life where her love for someone else no longer required abandoning herself. And this time, her name was already on it. Luca Atelier had become more than the dream Lukundo once kept postponing. The business employed several skilled women, including young professionals building independent careers of their own. And Lukundo introduced a paid training program that taught not only tailoring, but pricing, customer service, budgeting, and basic business management. She wanted every woman who entered her studio to understand something she had learned painfully. Talent deserved structure, and ambition deserved space. Chisomo remained part of her professional circle, but neither of them rushed what was slowly developing between them. When he eventually invited her to dinner, Lukundo smiled and said, "Dinner, yes. Promises about forever? Not yet." Chisomo laughed. "Then dinner is enough." For the first time, Lukundo entered a relationship without abandoning anything to make room for it. Kondwani continued building his engineering career too, carrying forward lessons that success alone could never teach him. There was no public humiliation, no dramatic revenge, and no need for one person to collapse so another could rise. Lukundo's happiest ending was simpler and stronger. She could love again without disappearing inside someone else's future. And every morning she entered Luca Atelier, her name on the glass, reminded her that she had finally chosen herself. Lukundo's story is not a warning against supporting someone you love. Healthy love often requires generosity, patience, compromise, and seasons when one partner carries more than the other. The danger begins when temporary sacrifice becomes a permanent arrangement and one person's dream is repeatedly treated as more important. Lukundo's greatest mistake was not believing in Kondwani. It was believing that her own future could always wait. A woman can celebrate someone else's ambition without becoming invisible beside it. She can contribute financially without destroying her security, encourage a partner without abandoning her goals, and love deeply while maintaining boundaries. Kondwani also teaches another lesson. Gratitude is not simply remembering who helped you when you are struggling. Gratitude is respecting them after your circumstances improve. Success that makes someone ashamed of the people who supported them reveals growth in status, not necessarily growth in character. Perhaps the most valuable question in this story is not, would you have left Kondwani? It is, when you look at the future you are currently building, how much of it carries your own name? Sometimes choosing yourself does not mean choosing selfishness. It means finally accepting responsibility for the life only you can build.